Michelle Brown.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. In itself, this report and the acceptance of its recommendations by Welsh Government are all well and good, and it's right that there's a high level of analysis and scrutiny as we head towards Brexit. If there had been as much scrutiny of the transition that was taking place towards the United States of Europe, the UK would have made the sensible decision to leave a long, long time ago. But there was very little or no scrutiny or debates in this place or in Westminster when extra powers were being given away, largely because every party in this chamber at the time was supportive of further integration, even though it's now obvious the Welsh public were not. The report is sensible and valuable, of course, but it all comes down to the content of this government's communication with the stakeholders concerned and the public. There are many in this place and others who will do all they can to ignore the will of the voters and either attempt to reverse the democratic decision made at the referendum or who aim to leave the EU in name only. And my concern is that the government will use its contact with stakeholders to continue their Project Fear to get backing for the softest, most meaningless Brexit possible. In their discourse, I suspect they will attempt to paint a scene of stability within the EU that simply doesn't exist. Remainers tried to argue that leaving would create uncertainty, while ignoring the obvious truth that remaining would create uncertainty also. With all the moves towards greater political integration, more powers being given away to Brussels, an EU army and so on, there was no status quo option on the ballot paper, and there is no such option now either. The notion that the Welsh Government will provide objective and impartial guidance on the implications of the various Brexit scenarios is frankly laughable. They have not managed to say anything accurate about the various Brexit scenarios to date, and they painted themselves into this corner by embarking on Project Fear during the referendum campaign. They went so overboard with painting a picture of doom and gloom that unless they continue that narrative when reporting back to this place or another, they will be discovered as having been wrong again. If they go back to businesses and say, "We know we told you a leave would be a disaster, but actually now we know it's the opposite," they will lose the tiny wisp of credibility they may still possess. This government never admits that it's wrong, and no more obvious is this when they attempt to say what the people voted for and what they didn't vote for. Rather than accept that the public disagreed with them, they tried to redefine what Welsh people were expressing through the Leave vote, to keep it in line with their party political agenda. So finally, whether it's a question of exploring a no-deal scenario, publishing the 9 sectoral analyses, improved communication with organisations, issuing guidance or any of the other recommendations, the report and the acceptance in principle from the government is all well and good. But the Welsh Government must make sure that it puts the will of the Welsh people ahead of its bruised pride and party political agenda when delivering on the recommendations. Thank you.